Hello friends, my name is Rajkumar Jain. I am a AWS community builder and C Sharp Corner MVP. Today I would like to share my knowledge on Docker. Docker, I hope you guys are aware. If not, so let's start from the Docker. Dockers come like if you are aware about the ship, big ship, where we have seen the lots of containers are there. So let's see what is the Docker. So here, if you can see on my screen, this is what we can call Docker. So if you see in the ship, we can put lots of container here, right? So I'm just trying to find out the way to explain you how we can do. So here, if we have lots of ships, in the ships we have lots of containers, and if you can see all the containers are having the same size, correct? So if you can see all the container having the same size. So why this Docker is required means what is the requirement of the Docker in the current industry environment. So Docker is a very powerful and the popular open source tool for the containerization of the platform. This is used for the building and deploying and the running application on a Docker. So Dockers allow you to decouple the application software from your underlying infrastructure. So here where we are looking for a Docker. So for example, if you have a hypervisor, if you are aware about in the past, most of the time we need a machine to paste our code. So that is called the hypervisor, or we can say the virtual machine. In the virtual machine, we have a dedicated operating system. On that dedicated operating system, we have installed our application, testing it, and delete the virtual machine. But here the restrictions is that we need a very dedicated operating system here, right? But in case of Docker, your container can contain the required software, right? So whatever the software you are looking for, so let me share you some kind of container here. So for example, we have this container, right? In this particular container, I have one operating system which belongs to Unix. We have another operating system. So this operating system have is belongs to Unix machine. This operating system is Windows, and this one is the Mac. So now I have a application which I want to test in the different operating system. So for example, I have an application which I want to deploy in all these three operating system. So hypervisor for which we need a three virtual machine. So instead of using the three virtual machine, now what we can do, we can create a container which contain the Unix related all the libraries there to run that application. So all the required libraries or required code we can contain in this container. Container can contain everything, which is the basic infrastructure which we are looking for to run that application. The same for Windows. We are looking for the Windows framework to run our application. The same for the Mac OS. So now we have a three container. Means we have a three virtual machine But here the container is required only the required infrastructure, not the whole machine. So in previously, when we are talking about the virtual machine, if we have a 8 GB RAM and my hypervisor is running on that, that hypervisor consumes the whole 8 GB RAM, while my application is looking for only 120 MB RAM. So maybe this Unix container is looking for 120 MB RAM. This Windows application is looking for 256 RAM, right? And this is maybe looking for 1 GB of RAM or 512 MB of RAM. So now if I have a machine which have a 2 GB RAM, so all these container will distribute and the remaining will be there to run my application. So I what to run these containers, I need one Docker, because Docker will contain all these container. As I said, Docker is the containerization platform to run the container on that. And this is Docker is the open source, as I said. So it's not it's like it's a free of cost we can use. And this container is contained. So whatever is looking to run on that particular Docker, we are using this. We install all the required component in this particular container. So this is what the Docker is. So now let's start with the example. So for example, as I said like previously, if I'm looking for some like this is my operating system, as I said, this is my application one. This is my another application. This is the app 2, right? So in past, if I want to run this application, I need two virtual machine, or in a one virtual machine I can run, but I need the same kind of operating system, or on top of that I need a hypervisor. I need a hypervisor here, on that this application will run. Correct. So this will help to run this F1 and F2 on a particular machine. Now in a hypervisor, I have a two operating system, and one operating system is for F1, one OS, and the another one is OS2 to run my second application. Right. So now this OS required 2 GB of RAM. This OS required 2 GB of RAM. My hypervisor have only 4 GB of RAM. So all my RAM is consumed. On below we have a system like system host of operating system on which this hypervisor is running. So this is my system operating system on which my hypervisor is there. So this is how like this is how it look like. But once the contain like the Docker is coming to a picture, so we need only one Docker application. In this Docker, we are looking for a Docker engine. Okay, Docker container engine, which will help containers to run on top of Docker. Correct. So now my container will contain this is my two containers. This is my first container. This is my second container. This container will have my first application, type 1, and to run this application, I need few of the libraries on top of it. Those libraries is required to run this application in this container. So this container is contain libraries in the application. It will support to run this app. Correct? So now all is clear till time. So far so good. So now you got the understanding what is the difference between hypervisor. In the hypervisor, we needed two operating system. One is this and second one is this. But here we are not looking for the operating system. We are looking only the required libraries to run my application. And this application is looking for only 256 or 128 MB RAM to run this particular container. And the same for this one. So whatever this required one, it will allocate it to the Docker. Okay, so let's go and try to install install our first Docker. So for that, I have written few of these steps. Okay, so I hope you got the clear understanding about the Docker. Why is Docker is required? So see, container was previously was there. Okay, but it's come into a picture, come into the popularity part when the Kubernetes is there. Kubernetes is the another one, another orchestration tool to use or to deploy these container images into the Kubernetes. We will learn what is the difference between the container and the images. Container one is the running part, and image is one the static one, which we are creating, which we are creating for with the help of our Docker file, and this is a non-running entity. So image is the non-running entity and container one is the running entity. So this is the very basic difference between the container versus image. For that, there are lots of things are there, lots of commands are available in the Docker to which by which we can orchestration of this container and images and deploy those images into the container. Okay, so now means like you got the understanding about the Docker. Docker is the container orchestration tool. Container contain all the images which contain the application in the required libraries, right? So how we will create those image? So there is a very clear basic funda. You should use Docker file. With the help of the Docker file, you will create an image. So guys, be careful. The Docker file, the we have to be very clear. D should be capital and the file should be the small one, and this should be the your file name. Once you will run the Docker build, then this Docker file should be there. On the basis of this Docker file, it will create your application image, and then we will deploy in the Docker in the form of container. So this is how like the containers look like. So how Docker containers are created. So as I explain you, but let me explain you again. So here we have a Docker file. Dockerfile contain the required informations about your OS, about your app, path where to install in your OS, and about the app. These informations we contain in the Docker file. Correct? Okay. Then with once we have an image, then we will build the Docker image. So with the help of Docker build command, we will create the image of this Docker file, and then when we are running this image with the help of Docker, so here we will use the run. Okay, so let me move it first to give you the clear understanding about how this Docker is working. So this is my Docker file which contain all the informations. With the help of Docker build command, we will create the Docker image, and then we will run this Docker image and create a Docker container. We will create the Docker container. Correct. So this is how we are creating the Docker. Now, in the next lecture, we will go for the live one. In the live session, we will do the labs. In the lab, we will get the understanding about this one. Thank you. Thanks for your joining. I am stopping my session right now. Stop screen. Stop. Thank you so much.